Our viewers always have something to say. This time it's the Reed case. Let's take a look.
There's a lot of questions about the Karen Reed case, and we're here to answer them today. I'm Lainey Law.
And I'm attorney Andrew Myers.
Today we've pulled some of our viewer comments. We try to take a look back and see what questions you guys have, what comments you have about each case as it progresses. And today is no different. Today we are addressing the comments on our latest video on Karen Reed. So from Maria Ben Sun Viking, we have serious questions to lawyers of Massachusetts. Is it normal for people who are involved in the case to be the ones who are doing the investigation? If not, what can be done about it? This whole circus is not funny for the people who are being investigated and accused by the same people who are the ones monitoring their lives. This goes for everyone from Karen Reed down to the duck guy.
Obviously, she's talking about Canton, Massachusetts,
Mm-hmm.
where, you have a lot of interplay between the Alberts. So one of the Alberts is in the police department, and they weren't supposed to be investigating the case, even though John O'Keefe's body was found on the front lawn of Brian Albert's yard. But obviously, the other Albert, Kevin Albert, who is on the police station, police force, I should say, was talking to Michael Proctor, who is the head investigator. It goes deeper and deeper and deeper. And no, it's not usual. No, it's not usual at all, and it shouldn't be that way. But welcome to Massachusetts.
Yeah, and they mentioned like what can be done about it, because that was one of the things that I thought like right away, and I think a lot of people had a similar thought where it seems like a conflict of interest, but now that it's this deep in, there's nothing that can really be done about it, right?
It's kind of late now. I mean, we're pretty deep into the Karen Reed case. Trial 1.0 is over. The final result is in the hands of the Supreme Judicial Court. And it looks like there's going to be, barring something unforeseen in my mind, there's going to be another trial.
But now, if the people that are under investigation right now for the police misconduct, if anything happens to that, will that impact the retrial at all?
Well, I object to the form of the question because they've already said that Proctor is suspended without pay. So that's pending. But two of the other officers got a slap on the hand, 5 days, and that kind of thing. So, you know what? It's not going to change. It's Massachusetts. I've been watching Massachusetts politics since two senators went to jail for taking kickbacks in the construction of the UMass campus. And that was, I've got to say, 40 years ago. So you want things to change in Massachusetts, you've got a long wait.
Oh, fair. All right. So now we have JC the Music Man. Mass law has a reasonable person test. I highly doubt that any reasonable person would be offended or feel harassed by freedom of speech, which I think is relating to the ducks. And um so I didn't know necessarily what this reasonable person test is. I didn't know if you had any more insight in that. But as far as like being harassed by the freedom of free speech, they are, I think, reasonably so, pointing out that this whole duck thing has kind of been blown out of proportions, where people are obviously, we have like a 36-page police report. So do you think that is going to apply in any state, in any sense to this?
I did respond to this
Mhm.
online. The common law, which applies in all 50 states, less so in Louisiana, but let's say the common law in 49 states does have a reasonable person test. It doesn't really apply in this context. The reasonable person test tells us that a jury question is invoked by some law. For example, is there causation between a breach of duty and an accident? It really doesn't apply in this context. But I think what they're trying to ask us is, would a reasonable person be offended or feel harassed by the freedom of speech? And the question really is, what's being said, and is there any harm to the person's character? Is it really defamation? And so, I mean, it really depends on what we're saying. If we're talking about a duck on a park bench outside a pizza joint, no. But if you're prosecuting somebody for murder and they didn't do it, and it turns out that they didn't do it, yeah. So it's, but in a roundabout way, yeah.
All right. So next we have a comment from Jeff Begbie. They say it's drawn national attention. Let me think. I'm from Australia, and a lot of other countries are following Karen's case as well, putting felony charges on ducks left around town. Oh boy, that leaves Easter out for Canton and the Easter hunt then. I thought
Yeah.
that was a funny comment.
Yeah,
Oh.
we do get comments from all over the world. We get comments from Australia, New Zealand, England, UK. And our friend Yoli is following it out in California, and yeah, we get comments from everywhere. So yeah, it's going way beyond Massachusetts.
Mhm. And that's, I think like they kind of make a funny point about the Easter egg, like no Easter egg hunts in Canton at this point because it's just, it's a small little thing. Obviously, we shouldn't be littering, but it turned a little extreme. All
I
right.
mean, if there's trash all over the place and the police are serious about littering laws, why don't they stop people from just throwing trash all over the place? The last time I went
Mhm.
to Boston, there was trash all over the common right across the street from the State House. So why don't they get down there and take a look at that? It's a stretch.
Mhm. Elise 2096. Such a waste of resources. I cannot believe taxpayers of Canton are allowing this BS. The level of detecting and investigation used for ducks, but not two murders. Is there no oversight in this area? Are they not a part of civilized society? Are there different rules that apply to these police departments? And I think that kind of echoes a feeling that a lot of people had, which is that a lot went into the ducks and it didn't feel like the same energy was put towards the Karen Reed case.
Yeah, and you know what? The other thing is that I've been remiss in that there have been some pretty heated local meetings in Canton at the very beginning of this whole mess. The voters in Canton demanded that the selectmen set up an audit committee to audit the police, and they've been holding very heated meetings. The selectmen have been having very heated meetings where citizens of Canton are a lot of them are extremely upset. They are upset about this. They know that they're a laughing stock. So the taxpayers of Canton are not happy. I think a lot of taxpayers in Massachusetts are not happy, and so they are doing something about it. Whether there's a good result that comes out of that audit committee in Canton, we don't know. But it is a waste of resources. There's no question about
Mhm.
that. You are right, Elise.
Yeah, and I definitely agree. And that's one of the big complaints I've had with the retrial is just like we're taking all of this energy and all of these resources for one person who there's already been so much argument in getting a jury verdict in the first place because it a lot of people it did not seem beyond a reasonable doubt. Um not that Aruba trips don't prove anything. So Stella Wilkerson says, "It just amazes me how the rubber duckies get more attention than John." Yeah, similar to our last one. How much time and effort the state police put into the duckies is egregious. Why couldn't the state police give poor John the same courtesy? That's why people are so incensed who's running the show. And that kind of falls in line with the last comment where, like you said, they are now needing to audit these police because it's scary. It's sad. We people in Australia should not be hearing about this case.
I think it's a rhetorical question. I think Stella answered her own question. I don't really have much more to say about it. It's nuts.
Yeah. So now we have a comment from Jenny with a lot of threes. The nice man who felt he was powerless, having lived and watched the mockery being made of the law, decided to do something small and, in my opinion, very witty to peacefully say his piece, and God forbid, put a smile on people's faces. Is now
Can't have
is
that. No.
yeah is now visible has now been charged so viciously when he abided by the law his whole life. This is no way to treat a man who pays taxes and perhaps is a little too creative, but his heart is in the right place. Then that's a great point where it's just like you have like violent protests and riots and all these types of things. This guy was just leaving ducks around.
Yeah, I think this is from that episode where we did look at the 36-page police report. And I've handled some horrible, horrible, horrible accident cases where somebody, was in a fatal accident out on the turnpike, high rate of speed, and they bring in the accident reconstructionists. Thank you. And their report's 12 pages. 12 pages for a
Mhm.
major, horrible accident report with an expert's report incorporated. So 36 pages? I mean, it's just ridiculous. It's just
Mhm.
nuts.
Yeah, and it's also because I guess like one of the parts that bothers me a lot about this too is that you're taking people who are completely unassociated in this case and you're putting them through this. You're basically just taking regular people and, you know, putting all this extra stress on them. And people have like bad preconceived feelings like about police in the first place. It's not fair in this situation, I think, to just take people who really aren't doing any harm. Um,
I
so
have an
now
idea.
Mhm.
Why doesn't the new special prosecutor, Hank Brennan, decide to offer Karen a plea for littering because her back tail light broke and she left pieces of it on the driveway? Why don't
Oh,
they pull everything
yeah.
down, dismiss all the second degree and leaving the scene, dismiss it all, and charge her with littering?
Seriously. Well, and it makes me think of, like, that's a great point where anytime you see a car accident that there's always stuff left over. It's like these people aren't being charged with littering. There's obviously a lot of stuff that happens and, things get missed, but it's ridiculous. Now, last but not least, our final comment from today, Lori Manjuria. You notice nobody really investigates when someone was throwing chemical balloons on people's lawns.
Yeah,
Um,
that came out in the newspaper, and a lot of our commenters have said something about that. And the people that were supporting Karen Reed had bleach balloons thrown on their lawns. That
mhm.
is potentially extremely dangerous. Imagine that it hit an animal, a cat, or a child,
Well,
or
I
that
mean,
bleach.
yeah, because that sounds more like a felony than anything because that's like with intent to harm. That's like throwing poison at somebody versus like a rubber duck is littering.
And there was no investigation of 36 pages, much less any investigation. There was no investigation at all, none.
Mhm.
So
I
it
don't,
just shows you
yeah.
that they're, I get a lot of criticism, not only in the comments, but from people in general. Oh, you're taking sides in this case. You're taking sides in this case, and I hate to admit it because I like to remain neutral. I really do. Like in the Koberger case, we've tried really hard to remain neutral so people on both sides hate us. I originally, when I first started thinking about this case, I read a lengthy article that was in Boston Magazine. And I said, oh, those people are crazy. She did it.
Mhm.
And then as the trial got closer and closer, closer, I started reading more and hearing more and listening, and so my views have totally changed 180%. But that's what happens if you have an open mind. If you have an open mind and you listen and you read and you think and you don't have such a dedicated and stubborn confirmation bias. In other words, if your mind isn't made up and you just accept the facts that support your view and ignore the other facts, an open mind, the old saying on a bumper sticker is that minds are like a parachute, they only work when they're open. Well, I had that experience in this case. When I first started reading about it, as you know, I'm addicted to media and I watch TV. I watch TV all the time. This morning I watched at least 5 or 6 different channels news. And so
Mhm.
that's how I was taking my news in on the Karen Reed case. And I thought, "Oh, what's all this BS? She's guilty, she did it." But the more I looked and the more I listened, and then the trial started and oh my god, the media blew it on this. And some of them are still blowing it. The
Mhm.
media blew it on this case because I think it's pretty clear that it didn't happen the way the narrative has been going, and so yeah, we take a lot of grief,
Mhm.
no matter what we do or what we say. So you have to
Yeah.
be honest to yourself.
And I think, because, in another case that we've been talking about, the Sarah Boone case, it's a lot different when you see like that video that she recorded and like the malicious intent. But in this situation, like you said, it's like it. it's very hard to prove that she would have done it intentionally, like, had she hit him in the first place. And then now, like you say, is like there's so many other aspects to it where now it's left to question, did she even hit him in the first place? And a lot of people can't even get to an agreement on that part. And, you know, I mean, obviously we followed the case, but there's just it's just so much resources, so much time, so much effort being put into a situation that really, like, that money and that time could be done so much more
Yeah.
productive things with.
Well, interestingly, Sarah made a really stupid move, and I say that objectively speaking because they offered her a plea bargain. They offered her a
Mhm.
plea bargain that a lot of people who have a higher pay grade than me in defense sat down and scribbled everything out and analyzed it, and they've said that under the plea bargain that she rejected, she would have only served maybe 5 or 6 years and she'd be out, and she's
Mhm.
in her 40s, so, she'd have a fair amount of her life left to live, but she rejected it, and it's very likely, that she'll be found guilty. I think it's pretty unlikely that she'll be found not guilty, but, she could serve up to life. I mean,
Yeah, no, I definitely understand, and I don't know, I definitely don't understand Sarah's case, actually.
no,
It's like Karen
right.
Reed, it's like it's a little bit, more room for doubt, but it's unfortunate. But I do wanna say thank you guys, everybody who's watched up until this point. Andrew, do you have any final thoughts?
Well, yeah, just that I do read all the comments. I read all the comments, and I think people have listened when I say don't personalize it because we will delete it. Because I'm deleting fewer and fewer and fewer. I think in the last week I only actually deleted one comment,
Mhm.
both because I think maybe our viewers know that it's a waste of time to post something that personalizes it, but also I think maybe I'm leaving more of them up. I'm just saying, okay, we disagree. Okay, we disagree. Doesn't really matter to me. So, I just have to say that, I think it's good for people to think, to read, to open their minds because you can change your mind. You really can.
And I will, before we close out, I do want to give Andrew so much credit. I mean, he says that he leaves comments up and stuff like that. He's really a fair ruler because sometimes I'll be looking through the comments when making these videos, and I'm like, I like I've only I think responded to one person's comment on my own private account, other than like Yoli, and because they were like saying something ridiculous. But sometimes I'll look at these comments and I'll be like, this person is being so insane and crazy right now. I almost want to respond to them. And I'm like, no, it's not worth
Go ahead. Go
it.
ahead.
Andrew's like so polite. He's like, you know what? Thanks for commenting. So Andrew has
S
a high level of tolerance.
Sometimes these comments speak for themselves. I mean, you've heard the old saying about, you just, give people enough rope and they'll hang themselves. And I think,
Hmm.
people make a fool of themselves sometimes, so let them. Who am I
Yeah,
to stop them?
yeah. That's definitely how I feel about some of the men. And sometimes I do pull out the comments that disagree with us. When I say, obviously, like, I say that there's some crazy stuff, but like realistically, like, I can't pull out every 5-page comment that's like this long and has a lot of poorly made points on it. So I
Yeah,
try to keep them short and
we
sweet.
get some comments that go on and on and on and on, and, thank you for putting the effort into it, but, it's short and pithy is important.
Mhm. Yeah, when with the long and long and long, a lot of it. I mean, sometimes we do have some really long thought out comments. I do want to say thank you to that because not all the comments that are long are crazy, but some people write their fantasy novels in the comments down below. And they take that was like multiple ways. So no, thank you everybody who comments, and please leave a
Thanks.
comment, short or long. And we will see you in the next one. Thank you guys so much, and we'll see you in the grocery
Thanks.
store.
Whether you are in the grocery store, the gas station, or anywhere else, please remember to be kind to people. You don't know what they're going through. And the same goes for our comments section. We want you to comment, but be nice, be kind, be positive if you can. And thank you for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe. Have a good one.